Good morning. Welcome to Sunday. Willkommen am Sonntag. Maligayang pagdating sa linggo. Willkommen a Sunday. My name is Arlene Joy Christensen. Welcome to Unity of Bellevue, where we are awakening people and transforming the world. Since Reverend Denise, our new transitional consultant, is currently teaching a course called Quantum Living, which discusses the shadow, thought I'd share with you that this past Monday, June 6, was when Carl Jung died in 1961 at the age of 85. Carl Jung is credited with the concept of the shadow. The month of June has the numerical vibration of the number 6, being the 6th month of the year. The planet Venus rules the number 6 with all its beauty and wonderment of love, balance, and harmony. Juno, the namesake for the month of June, is the goddess of marriage. So no wonder June continues to be the most popular month to get married. Wonderment of love, balance, and harmony. This goes well with our theme for June, integrity. The unwavering determination in the heart to do right no matter what. It is with acceptance that Unity of Bellevue welcomes everyone, regardless of ethnicity, gender, age, religion, national origin, physical disability, or sexual orientation. Being June, happy Pride Month, and happy Juneteenth. Integral for today's Sunday service are our Wonder Team, tech team over there with Daniel McFadden and Howard Lamb. Flower arrangements for this month are by Linda Hillis-Heim. Lori Coleman was our meditation facilitator earlier and will be the prayer chaplain after service. Other presiders include Monica McDowell-Elvig and Glenn McClellan. Shelley Lish is the board host. Reverend Eric Odell is our guest speaker with the message of avoiding the slippery slope. Cindy Akana is back as our guest artist with song leader Jamie Sassy. No, she tricked me, she's back here. With Jamie Sassy. So let's awaken our community with the community song, God is Our Source.
Please stand. God is my source. God is my power. God gives me everything I need. So I give thanks for all my blessings. God gives me everything I need. God is my source.
God is my source.
God is my power.
God is my power.
God gives me everything I need. So I give thanks for all my blessings. God gives me everything. And how about some love? Love is my source.
God is my source.
Love is my power.
Love is my power.
Love gives me everything I need. So I give thanks. everything I need. Peace is my source.
Peace is my source.
Peace is my power.
Peace is my power.
Peace gives me everything I need. So I give thanks
So I give thanks
for all my blessings.
for all my blessings.
Peace gives me everything I need. Back to God, guys. God is my source.
God
It's
is-
my power.
God is my power.
God gives me everything I need. So I give thanks for all my blessings. God gives me everything I need. God is my source.
God is my source.
God is my power.
God is my power.
God gives me everything I need. So I give thanks.
So I give thanks
for all my blessings.
for all the
God
blessings.
gives me everything I need. God gives me everything I need. God gives me everything I need.
We give thanks. God gives us everything we need. God is all there is. We call forth from within us, within each of us, within all of us together, divine wholeness, divine abundance, divine well-being that is always here present with us now. We affirm that this place of wellness, of integrity, is integrating us at greater depths, bringing us into greater alignment with divine will. We allow this great work to be done in us and between us and through us as we co-create the beloved community where everyone is valued, everyone has enough, everyone lives their inner truth and is heard and knows their oneness. We breathe in now with a sacred breath. We breathe in again. We know this time is sacred. We declare this ceremony is in divine order, that all is well, and we are so grateful. And so it is.
I give it up, let it go. I give it up because I know God is in control. I give it up, let it be. I give it up because I don't need to regulate, orchestrate, or moderate how my life unfolds. I let God and let it go. I want things my way, or I'll hit the highway. This phrase I've often used to tell God what to do. But I am finding God's plan and timing are always best for me. So rather than beg and plead, I give it up, let it go. I give it up because I know God is in control. I give it up, let it be. I give it up because I don't need to regulate, orchestrate, or moderate how my life unfolds. I let God and let it go. I hoarded plenty of extra money so I didn't have to fret about how to pay the rent. But I am learning God's always working for my higher good. So with that pocketbook, I give it up, let it go. I give it up because I know God is in control. I give it up, let it be. I give it up, 'cause I don't need to regulate, orchestrate, or moderate. No, to regulate, orchestrate, or moderate. I don't need to regulate or orchestrate how my life unfolds. I let God and let it go. I let it go.
Awesome. Thank you, Cindy. As Joy wonderfully introduced our service this morning, our theme for the month is integrity. Our book of the month is Martha Beck's book, The Way of Integrity, and that's available in our bookstore. There's a few copies left, so I encourage you to check that out. We are going to share our affirmation together. I'm going to read it through one time by myself, and then we'll stand and read it together in one voice. So just allow your hearts to open, your soul to settle, and your ears to listen for what the Spirit says through these words. I affirm wholeness and integrity. I love and accept all of the parts of myself, no matter what. I own the places where my unconsciousness is still evolving into full divine consciousness. I allow myself the grace to grow and learn as I integrate at greater depths of my being. I grant this same grace to others. I align with the divine, and this is mine. I am so grateful, and so it is. Please stand together if able, and we'll affirm together in one voice. I'm going to go this way. I affirm wholeness and integrity. I love and accept all of the parts of myself, no matter what. I own the places where my unconsciousness is still evolving into full divine consciousness. I allow myself the grace to grow and learn as I integrate at greater depths of my being. I grant this same grace to others. I align with the divine, and this is mine. I am so grateful, and so it is. You may be seated.
I talk so loud, I forget I need a microphone. It is my pleasure to read the biography for our guest speaker, and then I'm going to do the reading that he has given us. Reverend Eric Odell retired last December after 11 years as co-founding minister of Amazing Grace Spiritual Center in Ballard. He recently answered a call to serve as transitional minister for Genesis Center for Spiritual Living in Renton. He also served for many years as the music ministry director for CSL Seattle, where he directed the Choir of Light, composed music, produced multiple CD recordings, and conducted Christmas Eve and Easter services in Benaroya Hall. The reading is from an article entitled, "What is Spiritual Integrity?" by Jack O'Keefe. When we are in spiritual integrity, we can apologize with ease and commit to doing and being better. We are naturally kind and confident. We do the right thing, not for approval or because it is expected or out of habit, but because our actions come from an inner state of authenticity. We are internally united. Self-honesty helps us to relax in mind and body because there is no game playing or personal agendas. There is no fear of being caught out, no sense of being a fraud or a fake. we are also free of arrogance because we are open to constant revision and improvement. We take responsibility and don't make excuses for ourselves. When we are in spiritual integrity, we are embracing our divinity. We are at our best. We are whole and in alignment with an inner wisdom that we all have access to if we choose to listen to it.
Money doesn't find me or determine what I'm worth. Second homes and diamond rings mean less to me than keeping my word. How I treat my neighbors, the ones with unruly kids, tells you more about who I am and what I have and how I live. 'Cause I believe that what's inside colors our lives. If grace and gratitude love will show. And I believe that we can change darkness and pride to display life-giving colors of the soul. Envy cannot consume me when I'm thankful for all I have. So I count life's benefits every night before going to bed. And if I'm disgruntled about the way that something is done, I simply remind myself that grace abounds for everyone. 'Cause I believe that what's inside colors our lives. If grace and gratitude love will show. And I believe that we can change darkness and pride to display life-giving colors of the soul. Peace begets peace. Patience breeds kindness. Joy paints laughter. Oh, living colors of a loving soul, of the soul. 'Cause I believe that what's inside colors our lives. If grace and gratitude love will show. And I believe that we can change darkness and pride to display life-giving colors of the soul. To display life-giving colors of the soul. Peace, patience, kindness, joy, and laughter. All living colors of a loving soul. Sing that with me. Peace, patience, kindness, joy, and laughter. All living colors of a loving soul. Do it again. Peace, patience, kindness, joy, and laughter. All living colors of a loving soul. One more time. Peace, patience, kindness, joy, and laughter. All living colors of a loving soul. Thank you.
Well, good morning, Unity. I'm so thrilled to be here. I was just sitting there thinking I've been involved in New Thought for 26 years, and it's just always great to feel at home. The very first religious service I ever really attended, because I wasn't raised in religion, was at Seattle Unity. And it was that thing where all of a sudden you're hearing people say what you really believe in a way you really believe it. How many people have had that experience? And it's so exciting. And also, talking about the shadow side, that first service, the minister got up and said, "I'm an alcoholic and I'm taking a break." And I was like, wow, okay, that's different. You just work it out, because I'm here for the message. Before I get into my talk, I also just want to pay a very sincere compliment to Joy. Doesn't she just do a fantastic job? I mean, that reading, you did such a great job with the reading. And of course, I want to also thank Cindy while I have a chance, because I love your music. That was great. And I want to say something else too. This is all like the leading in. This is the foyer, and we haven't gotten into my house of the talk yet. But the other thing that was popping into my mind when there was a mention of the shadow side, there's a wonderful line in one of the Psalms, and it talks about, if I go to heaven, you are there, and if I go to the depths of hell, you are there. And even in the darkness, your light is there. For even the dark is filled with your light. So as we explore the shadow side, we have to remember that shadow is only a relative thing. It's only a relative term. And the Spirit is still there. And if I was going to just wrap up the point of my talk, and I do have some wonderful little stories to tell. But if I wanted to just wrap up my talk at the beginning, I would have you remember a couple of thoughts. You know, there's that thing where you go to this service and you hear the talk, and then later someone asks you, what did the minister talk about? And you can't remember a word, right? Happens so often. Can't remember, it was great, don't remember what was said. This is one of the things that I would love for you to be able to remember, and that is, as we look at temptation, I'm talking about avoiding the slippery slope and going downhill with our integrity. Remember that everyone is always doing the best they know how to do all the time. Everyone is always doing the best. And this is important because we are all always being tempted. We're always being tempted. The slippery slope is always available. There's always the chance to tell the white lie. There's always the chance to just fudge. There's always the chance to just kind of not do the right thing completely. And if we knew better, we wouldn't go down the slope. And so it becomes, if you can remember that you are always doing the best you know how to do, then it's easier to forgive yourself and atone and change your ways. And it's easier to forgive other people, because all those people who went out of integrity and went right down the slippery slope were doing the best that they knew how to do. So that's, if you could just remember that, and you can say, he said everyone's always doing the best they know how to do all the time. Okay. I was so excited when Monica invited me and told me that integrity was the theme, because I noticed I have talked about integrity in 11 years in the pulpit very rarely. And I think that when I've talked about it in the past, I've tended to talk about it as get all of yourself, all aspects of yourself in alignment so that you can manifest more clearly, more powerfully. You know, if your physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual selves are all on the same page, that when you speak your word will have more power. And that's all true. But what I really want to talk about today is integrity in moral or ethical terms. That is, regarding one's choices as they affect other people. Now, as I said, we all face moral tests, uncensored thoughts, and impulses. And if you read the paper or pay attention to the news, don't you find that you have very uncensored thoughts about the people you disagree with? okay? I'm a cheerful, positive person, and I have very shadow thoughts about certain things. And to be tempted to do what is not right is to be human. And we learn and grow as souls through our reaction to temptations. And here's the good news. Whether you give in to the temptation or whether you resist the temptation, you are on your spiritual path and you are learning from either choice. Okay? So you cannot fail. Everybody take a nice deep breath and let it go. You can't fail. Resist the temptation. You know the thing, angel on this, devil on this, right? If you go this way, you learn something. If you go this way, anyone ever learn from going down the wrong path? Yes, indeedy. It's a very wonderful system that the Spirit has created for us. And that is why I can say with absolute conviction, I describe the divine as a loving and benevolent presence back of all creation. And it loves us and is with us whether we listen to the angel or whether we listen to the devil. Now, the old thought is to preach fire and brimstone and eternal damnation if you give in to Satan's temptations or seductions. And there's 10 commandments, and there's 7 deadly sins, and Catholics have a list of mortal sins and venial sins. And the medieval poet Dante said there's an inferno of very creative tortures awaiting all the perpetrators of his various sins. There's also a lot of people who have put the blame on poor old naked Eve for all the troubles that temptations have wrought throughout human history. And women have had to put up with a lot of injustice because of something made up by some very ancient and long dead male storytellers. In fact, I wasn't going to say this. Sometimes the best part of my talk are the things that I didn't plan on saying. There's 2 stories in Genesis. The first story is, God created the light and the dark and the sun and the moon and the stars and the earth and the plants and the animals and human beings and breathed life into us and gave it dominion and saw it was good. And it was good. And then there's the second part of Genesis, which is the story about Eve and the apple. It wasn't listed as an apple, it just says fruit. It was medieval painters who made it an apple. They just decided the fruit was an apple. It's actually not in the Bible, it just says fruit. And then there's the serpent and the temptation and then the punishment and the banishment from from Eden. And one of the ways I have heard New Thought described is we are Genesis 1 people in a Genesis 2 world. Don't you love that? All right. That's just a freebie that wasn't part of my talk. So if that's the old thought take on temptation, what is New Thought? What is the New Thought take on morals, ethics, and temptation? So several points. The first is karma is perfect and you perfectly reap what you sow. Karma is perfect, and you perfectly reap what you sow. Choose not to take temptation, you will not know what it was like to do this. Take the temptation, go down the slippery slope, you will find yourself somewhere, you will learn a spiritual lesson. And you'll get this if you do this, and you'll get this if you do that. And that's all it means. We have free will, and we get to choose, and we are 100% responsible for what we choose and the result of our choices. No one gets away with anything. Karmic debts will always be paid, but payment may not be completed in this lifetime, and this is where we can get into trouble. Because there's this thing called mortal mind. I love that phrase, mortal mind, limited mind. Mind that says only what I can see or only what is in the physical is real. And we get into trouble because we see an injustice and we do not see that injustice corrected in our lifetime or in the lifetime of the perpetrator. And so we believe that the divine allows injustice to have sway. Do you understand what I'm saying? And we lose track of the fact that no one gets away with anything, and karma will be paid in this life or in the life to come. So justice is perfect. And that's why we get into trouble if we rely on mortal mind. Now, since we're all eternal, we have all the time we need to make it up to others for what we've done, one way or another. And I find that very reassuring. I find this spiritual truth very comforting because I see a lot of injustice in the world. And I do get angry, and I do get upset, and I do become like a Charlton Heston in Moses. And I want to, smite. And I have to remember that God is still in charge, and no one gets away with anything. Now, in the book of Ecclesiastes, it says, how many people have read the book of Ecclesiastes lately? Isn't it great? I find it so wise and so comforting. You should check it out. And it says, the evil prosper and the good die young. The treasures you have stored up over a lifetime are inherited by fools who while it away in a fortnight. So eat, drink, and be merry, for tomorrow we die. Isn't that the best? Such good advice. You reap the reward of building up your treasure and being financially responsible. And fools reap the reward of spending the money like it's water. And this is your business, and this is their business. And so let it be, and don't be upset, and don't try and control everything. Thank you. Perfect. Everything in this service is so beautifully orchestrated this morning. Don't you feel that? What this really means is this is a reciprocal universe, and each action has a perfect reaction. Everyone reaps what they sow, and God's law is perfect. Don't worry, God's got this. Okay, my next point. Divine love is infinitely understanding and forgiving. And our God is a God of 10,000 choices. It doesn't matter how many times you go down that path. It doesn't matter how quickly or steeply you go down a slippery slope. You will hit bottom, and God will be there. And it will turn around, and something else will happen, and you will move on, and you will grow, and that's how souls mature. There is no hell other than the one we make out of our own consciousness, our actions, and belief. So I want to tell you a story of perfect karma, and it goes like this. There was a general contractor, and he had worked for a company that built houses. And he'd worked for this company for decades, for many, many years. And he was coming up on retirement, and he was about to build the last house that he was going to build for this company. And he was thinking about retirement. He was nervous because he had not saved as much money as he thought he should. And he said, you know what I'm going to do is I'm going to really maximize profit on this particular house. And so what he did was he cheated and he cut corners in every possible way. He did the bare minimum of what was legally required, what could barely pass inspections, cheap materials, fewer nails, poorest equipment, spent as little money on this house as he possibly could in order to pocket as much of the profit, as much of the budget that this house allowed. And he finished the house, and he went to say goodbye to his boss, and the boss said, you know, you have worked for us so well for so long, and so we want to give you this house. Thieves live in fear of having their stuff stolen. And cheaters fear being caught or cheated upon. And murderers are afraid of getting caught and executed because when you have murdered, you live in a world in which murder exists. And liars believe no one's telling the truth. So you are creating, when you go down that slippery slope, you are in that field. You are in that field of consciousness, and you reap the results of being in that field of consciousness. We often believe that temptation stops at the doors of the church, like magically, because people talk about the higher things and the higher vibrations, and we think that everything is, beautiful and lovely and puppy dogs and rainbows in religious communities, or we used to, because now we are really learning that everything comes into the doors of the church. And in our innocence, we are shocked and disillusioned when church people do bad things. And one thing that spiritual communities are very vulnerable to is embezzlement, because the handling of money is so often based on trusting volunteers. Now, let me just say, I am not trying to plant a seed thought here about your community. So don't go there. But there's a story about Reverend Edward Viljoen. He's a wonderful minister. He's currently the spiritual community leader for Centers for Spiritual Living. That's a 5-year position. And he has a wonderful congregation in Santa Rosa, California. And they have a wonderful facility. They took over a roller skating rink and they turned it into this wonderful place. And big congregation, wonderful, wonderful, wonderful. And wonderful minister. And he has, when you have a couple thousand congregants, you have like 100 plus practitioners, which is kind of like Unity chaplains, only practitioners have more authority, more agency. Anyway, one of his lead practitioners became in charge of the finances of the church. And at some point, they needed to or decided to have an audit and discovered that this lead practitioner had embezzled $250,000. And it's really tough. Edward is embarrassed. It's a betrayal of the congregation's trust. It's a failure of leadership. It's personally crushing because this is a person who had become a practitioner under his training, was a lead practitioner, had grown up in the congregation. Last thing you expect, you can imagine, very upsetting all the way around, right? And there was a meeting fairly early on, and the practitioner had asked to meet with Reverend Edward, and she said, I'm terribly sorry, it's horrible. I fell down a slippery slope. I discovered that I could steal a little bit, and it just turned into this whole thing. And she said, I intend to make it up, and I'm assuming you're not going to press charges. And he said, I am absolutely going to press charges for your good, because I want to support you in paying off this karmic debt as quickly as possible. Right? I know if you're like me, I know you want to live your best life, and I know that this is why you're at Unity of Bellevue. So one way to keep in moral ethical integrity is to avoid the slippery slope. So here I've been talking all this time, and my talk title is Avoiding the Slippery Slope. So now I'm going to talk about what I told you I was going to talk about. Okay, so the slippery slope is the person on the diet who thinks, I've been good all week, I deserve a donut. How many people? Yes. I'm in good company, and before you know it, instead of losing 10 pounds, you've gained 15. It's the alcoholic who's having a bad day and thinks they can handle one little drink after 10 years on the wagon. Whoop. Woo. Bernie Madoff, perpetrator of the biggest Ponzi scheme in human history, put it this way. First you steal $100, then a couple thousand, and before you know it, it turns into 18 billion. No matter the size of the grift, the process is usually the same. I was standing on the precipice of a slippery slope a few years ago when my mother needed to be moved from her condo on the East Coast to a retirement home here in Seattle. My 2 older brothers and I all lived here, and we worked together, the 3 of us, to handle all of her affairs and to bring her to Bayview in Seattle. And my brother Randy and I, the three of us divided up all the chores, and my brother Randy and I were charged with clearing out and cleaning up her apartment and packing up all of her things. And I was going through her closet, and on the floor of her closet, I found in a corner a little plastic bag, and it was filled with solid gold coins. And I thought, just put it in your pocket. No one will know. And I immediately thought, I don't want to be that person. I don't want to be that person. I don't want that on my consciousness. I do not need this little bag of coins. Everything that will come to me, that is mine, will come to me. I don't want to take, I don't want to be that. I don't know what anyone else is going to do, but this is how I'm going to do this. And through this process, there were other occasions where she had a collection of Chinese snuff bottles. And there was one that I was like, ooh, and I was like, ooh. And I was like, no, we will divide everything when the time comes. I am not even one little snuff bottle am I going to touch. And interestingly, and it was really that thing of, because I have a friend, Terry, who worked at a retirement home, and she was really devastated by all of the base, ugly motivations and actions of family members fighting over the things of a person who was nearing the end of life. Do you all know what I'm talking about? All kinds of ugly motivations and greed and unresolved problems come out, and it was like a constant thing for her. And I thought, we're not having that. I'm not having that, and I'm not going to be that, and I'm not going to be that way with my relatives. And interestingly, at a certain point, once we had her settled, everything went beautifully well, and my stepmother in her wisdom put all those to inherit onto her checking account so there would be no probate. And we agreed that we wouldn't touch this money until the time came. And one relative started taking money out of the account. And nobody else, people were talking about it, but nobody else would confront the person. And I was the person, and by the way, the youngest person of this group, who went to them and said, you can't do this, you have to stop doing this has to come out of your cut, this money is for her while she's still alive. And I think I was the one called upon to do this because I took that attitude right from the beginning, from the smallest thing. That's one way to avoid the slippery slope. It's your gut feeling that is your guide. The mind comes up with all sorts of reasons and justifications for cheating, lying, stealing, manipulating, or otherwise doing what's wrong. But your gut knows, and you have to override it or shut it down to continue going down the slope. When you are facing temptation, you have to listen to your gut, your heart, and your conscience. Take a moment to think things through. Will you feel good about the win you've cheated to attain? That's the question. Will you feel good about the thing that you are going to do? If you take that drink, you'll feel maybe great in the short term, but will you feel great? Will you feel better later? That's the important question. If you tell the white lie, will you feel good about yourself? And don't you want to feel good about yourself? Because after all, you're stuck with yourself. Or I should say, you are blessed by being with yourself. Talking about the win, my husband Ken and I have been together for 25 years, and we take a Sabbath together. Fridays are our day off together, and it's a wonderful tradition. We've done it virtually the whole length of our relationship. And often we go out to dinner. And when we go out to dinner, we play a card game called 5 Crowns. It's like a rummy game. And the truth of it is, Ken wins at least 85% of the time. I don't know what he knows. I don't know if he sold his soul to the devil. I don't know why, but he wins the vast majority of the time. And after about, when we started this, after about a year of him winning almost all the time, there was a night where we were playing cards, and we was close, and I was like, I want to win. And I cheated. I cheated on a hand. And afterwards, I just felt so awful. And I was like, first of all, for God's sake, it's a card game. Come on. And I'm very competitive. And losing a lot didn't feel great. But I did it one time, and then I went, well, this is not what it's about. This is our Sabbath off together. And also, I had a little insight because I'm much more outgoing. Ken is very introverted and is actually easily ignored and overlooked. The waiter, the waitress will always talk to me, will always talk to me first. And I thought, my losing these card games most of the time is somehow correcting a balance a little bit, and that's okay. And it's probably good for me and all my competitive to lose sometimes. Living with a guilty conscience is no fun. That's why many criminals either turn themselves in or unconsciously get themselves caught or make deathbed confessions. Their sense of guilt won't leave them alone unless you're a genuine psychopath. And for genuine psychopaths, this talk is, completely irrelevant. And actually have no conscience. We all instinctively understand that karma must be paid, and that's a good thing. All things come out right in the end, and if it isn't right, it isn't the end. That's how divine reality works. When confronted with your own or someone else's transgressions, face the music, tell the truth, but be compassionate and forgiving. It's so stressful to hold on to anger and self-righteousness or self-condemnation. I was reminded as I was sitting here, I have one last little story to tell, and thanks for letting me do this. I love you all, and I love New Thought, and I love being here today. So I'll tell you this story, and this is about the consciousness of innocence, the consciousness of purity. And I'm telling this story because it's true and not to brag on myself, but I do come out looking pretty good. So the way this goes, I had been hired by Reverend Kathy Ann to be her music director, and I can say that for the 14 years I worked for her, I came from a place of true purity of heart. I really did everything that I knew how to do to be the best music director that I could to support her vision for worship and for music and arts in the community. And Cindy, you can say I'm not lying. Yeah. And also to serve the artists and to serve the congregants who were involved in the music and all of that. And at some point, fairly on in the process, there were a lot of things going on, a lot of things I didn't know about. But there were a lot of things going on, and Kathy Ann had the opportunity. There was a congregant who showed up who had just retired from the banking world, and he was a very high-powered, successful banking executive. And he said, there's a lot of things going on here that aren't right, and if you hire me, I would like to come on for a year or two as the business manager and kind of set the house to rights. And he had a long list of things that he wanted to do. And he did, and he did a lot of good. I remember hearing a story. There was a woman who was working as a receptionist, and he fired her, and she said, I wondered how long it was going to take somebody to notice I never do anything. So he was doing great. He was doing a great job. And he wasn't from church culture. And we in those days, we had traveling guest musicians from around the country who would produce CDs. They would come, they would perform at the services, and then they would sell their CDs, and they would make thousands of dollars. You know, if you have 1,300 people on a Sunday and you sell 300 CDs, that's you know, it's really worth your time. And churches had a habit of taking 10% of a tithe from the sales. And he said, we're going to take 40%. And no other congregation, large congregation in the movement did that. And I had to be the face of that policy. And I had to, in booking new artists, I had to say, we're taking 40%. And they were like, oh, and a lot said we're not coming. So he was doing things, some things that were making my job difficult. And I followed whatever his directives were, because I was coming from the place of, this is the leadership, this is what they say, I'm going to follow the rules. So one day he called me into his office and he sat me down and he said, I don't trust you. And there are 13 things that have happened that are why I don't trust you. And I smiled and I said, that's great. Tell me everything. Because I was completely undefended. You know, referring to that reading that Joyce said, when you are in integrity, there's nothing to be defensive about. You are an open book. And I know he was totally shocked by my reaction, because I know that this guy had fired a lot of people. He'd just fired a lot of people at the church. And I was like, tell me everything. And he went down the list, and I listened to every single thing, and I responded and said what my side of the thing was. And we worked through all the 13 things. And he said, well, okay, I think we're good. And at the end of his time, we had a conversation. We had an exit interview. And I said to him, you know, I had some trouble working with you, and I think that you were a stand-in for my father. And I think that I, through my time working with you, were able to resolve some unfinished business with my father, who had passed away by then. And he said, well, you know, it's a funny thing. I have a lot of issues with my son, and I know you have been a stand-in for my son and have allowed me to work through some issues that I've had with him. Everything is okay. Karma is perfect. You will be okay whether you avoid the slippery slope or you shoot all the way down. And to avoid the slippery slope, listen to your gut and remember that everyone is always doing the best they know how to do all the time, including you. And now let's have a meditation. So I'm going to ask you to just plant your feet solidly on the floor and allow this wonderful chair. These church chairs are the best, aren't they? So much better than those pews. And let the chair and the floor and the Lord of your being support you. And allow your consciousness to drift down to the center of your being. And allow yourself to breathe in the presence of the all-good. And let us take a moment to be grateful for life, to be grateful for our conscience, to be grateful for that supremely wise inner guidance, our connection to the infinite that knows all of the angles and all of the options and knows what is the best choice, what is the wisest choice, what is the choice that brings forth the greatest good. And let us take a moment to allow to come to mind our past transgressions. Those times when we did go down the slope, and know that we are forgiven. We are forgiven everything, and that we can forgive ourselves. That we have lived another day to make another choice, to make amends, to atone, and to commit to a different path, to learn our lesson. Let's also embrace, let us take in all of this suffering world and all those who through free will are choosing to do what is wrong, to do what is not right, to do what causes suffering for themselves and for others, and to have an attitude of forgiveness and grace, remembering that God forgives everything, and as God can forgive, we can forgive. We can forgive those who trespass against us, as we would have those that we have trespassed against forgive us. I bless this brilliant, beautiful spiritual path that we are on. I bless all the temptations resisted, all the temptations yielded to. God is still in charge. All is well. Life is good. And together we say, amen. And so it is.
Why did I not see that pit in front of me? Was I looking to the left and right instead of straight ahead where I knew I should be? Now I'm sinking deep into the mire. Shine on me when I slip and fall in places that keep me from stepping out with you. Shine on me and don't let my life be wasted here in the middle of the night. Lift me from the pit into your light. Standing on the rim, I must have slipped in, knowing all too well that I might. But here I won't stay or throw my life away, just sitting tight and closing my eyes. Shine on me when I slip and fall in places that keep me from stepping out with you. Shine on me and don't let my life be wasted here in the middle of the night. Lift me from the pit into your light. Shine on me and don't let my life be wasted here in the middle of the night. Lift me from this pit into your light.
Hello, good morning. That was awesome. I can assure you, Reverend Odell, I will remember what you said. I promise. Woohoo! Yay. Cindy, beautiful as always. Thank you. My name is Shelley Lish. I'm the board host for this morning. So thank you all for being here for the service, the message, the music. It's wonderful. This is the point in our service that we give thanks for all of the abundance in our lives. We know that as we give, shall we receive. Per our principles, abundance is our way of living and thinking and growing every day. If you are new to Unity of Bellevue, of course, there is no expectation. We invite you to pick up a welcome packet just to the left of the sanctuary doors outside and learn more about the center and all the goodness here. If you are called to share your gifts, there is a basket just inside the sanctuary doors, just to the back here. You are all welcome to go to the website also as another way to give and click on the Give button. For those of us that call Unity of Bellevue our home, sharing and giving is our gifts. Sharing our gifts is a matter of purpose and principle. We give thanks always for the abundance that we are so fortunate to share, and in return, the abundance flows to each of us with ease and grace. It is in this gratitude of giving that we join together in our offering affirmation. Please join me. Divine love, through me, blesses and multiplies all that I am, all that I have, all that I give, and all that I receive. And so it is. Thank you.
We can take a moment for blessing. We avow that we live in an abundant universe whose nature is abundance, and we see that abundance unfolding all around us. And so it is with a grateful heart that we say thank you. Thank you to you for these gifts freely shared. We hold these gifts to be sufficient and ample to support all that is ours to do. We bless these gifts, and we bless you, the givers, acknowledging the law of circulation. As you give, so shall you receive. May you also be abundantly blessed. We dedicate and consecrate these offerings to our highest and best use and towards our purpose of awakening people and changing the world. And we rest in the knowledge that all is well and we are truly blessed, and we let it be.
Good morning again. My name is Monica McDowell Elvig. I'm your Center Administrator and Temporary Operations Director, and that is ending soon. Aren't we excited about that? Not that I'm leaving necessarily, but I'm excited. I'm excited that Reverend Denise is starting as our new transitional consultant on June 20th, and June 26th will be her first Sunday with us, so that's our opportunity to meet her and start to get to know her. I think that it's just going to be a great new chapter in the life of Unity of Bellevue. So we welcome all of you. If you are new, your presence is a blessing to us, whether in person or online. We invite you to receive a welcome packet from us. They're to the left of the sanctuary doors if you're in person. Online, you can go to our website, unityofbellevue.org, and go to the I'm New page and select a welcome packet, and I will send one to you. The best way to stay in touch with us is to sign up for our weekly e-newsletter. You can do that on our website. At the bottom of every page is a sign-up form that comes out every Thursday morning, and that is got everything that's happening at Unity of Bellevue on that newsletter. We have a prayer circle happening today after service in the library that is hybrid for in-person and online via Zoom meeting. That Zoom link is on our launch page on our website. Lori Coleman is our prayer chaplain today, and she will be leading that. Thank you, Lori. Affirmative prayer is powerful, and doing it together in group is even more powerful. So we invite you for that. If you have any prayer requests, you can fill out the prayer request forms or email them. There's lots of ways to get your prayer requests to the prayer chaplains. For our sacred service for the month of June, we are continuing our little food pantry, little library exploration. We're in the design phase right now. So Paul Roof has volunteered to make our structure. So thank you, Paul. If you would like to vote on a favorite design, we've got some samples up on the link. The link is in the newsletter. It's also in the link in the chat. We're just getting some feedback and some a little bit of fun participation to see what's your favorite. So look at that, and then we'll go to the board with our proposal and start working towards that, getting that built. We're also planning to take some hikes this summer with Unity of Bellevue. If you are interested in doing that for fun, for community, let me know. I'll put you on the list. Brian Brewer has volunteered to lead those hikes. He's, so thank you to Brian. Reverend Denise, as I mentioned, is starting on June 26th. She has recorded a video to introduce herself to Unity of Bellevue, and you'll find that on our website page, unityofbellevue.org/transition. There will be a memorial service. Just a reminder, the memorial service for Laura Munding is this Saturday at 1 p.m. If you are coming or would like more information, you can connect with Dick Rhodes. A big thank you to Reverend Eric. Wasn't that awesome? Thank you for your clear wisdom. That was really enriching. So thank you. We're so grateful you're here, and your energy and your soul is a blessing to us. And thank you also to Cindy. We're so glad to have you with us. Next week, Reverend Sally is here as our virtual guest speaker, and Becky and Matt will be our guest artists. So looking forward to that. We'll see you next week, and we're going to close out with the peace song and our prayer for protection.
Let there be peace on earth, and let it begin with me. Let there be peace on earth, the peace that was meant to be, with God as creator and family all are we. Let us walk with each other in perfect harmony. Let peace begin with me. Let this be the moment now. With every step I take, let this be my joyous vow. To take each moment and live each moment in peace eternally. Let there be peace on earth, and let it begin with me.
The light of God surrounds us. The love of God enfolds us. The power of God protects us. The presence of God watches over us. Wherever we are, God is, and all is well. Thank you, everyone. Thank you to all the volunteers. We love you. Blessings. Have a great week.